Hi everybody, thanks for joining me once again for another Saturday round of stories right here on Thailand Bound. Now, I might have a little bit of a lisp today because I had some very serious surgical work done on the top of my teeth a couple of weeks ago. I do these videos 1 week in advance, so you might still notice it. Most of the pain is gone now. It was pretty terrible, I can tell you. Glad that's all over and done with now. These are brand new stories to my channel. Hopefully they haven't been sent to any other channels. I've never read these out before, these 4 stories. And the background video you're going to be watching, I actually filmed it last night outside Nana Plaza. I had done one similar to that about 6 months ago, but it's always a good place to sit and people watch. I was in Hooters last night. It was a Buddha holiday where they weren't serving alcohol everywhere, but I was able to get a couple of pints in Hooters last night, and I set the camera up and I just let it roll, people watching the front of Nana. And yes, again, it did rain, unfortunately, where it goes a little bit clear for a little while, but other than those sort of 5 or 10 minutes, it's quite an interesting video to watch. Okay, let's get into the first of 4 stories this morning.
สวัสดีค่ะ
I was married to a Filipino for 20 years, and I'm very familiar with the duties and expectations when marrying into a different culture, as it seems that many stories show men being shocked at what is expected of them with their wife's family and extended family, which can include dozens of people. Our household was traditional from the start. My wife and children, as well as my mother-in-law, who was a widow, all lived together. She was a great lady who I missed dearly. I made sure she went shopping and accompanied her on countless appointments and gatherings. We cooked together. She loved our RV trips as she felt she would never experience that kind of life. My wife had 2 older brothers who lived nearby with their wives and children. I originally thought the older brothers would be responsible for their mother, but as it seems in many stories, and as it was in my case, the responsibility fell to the daughter, very similar to what occurs in Thailand, where the daughter is tasked with the care and support of the parents. Our house was like a community centre, as my mother-in-law was the eldest in the family, and there was a constant parade of cousins, nieces and nephews. It was always lively and filled with many happy times. A few months after we were married, my ex asked if I would co-sign for a new dental clinic for her older brother as he had just completed his dental exams. I was surprised by this and said I did not think I should do that. Both he and his wife worked, and her eldest brother was an executive with a credit card company. I asked, what about them? My ex said that her brother came to her for help. My brother-in-law also asked me to help. At that point, I relented and co-signed. I did it to keep the peace. Luckily, he made a good go of it and did not default on the loan, and as benefit, we all got free dental care for as long as he was practicing, and my ex and daughter worked there part-time in reception. Over the years, there were many other requests for help, both in the US and from family in the Philippines, mostly money or requests for food and clothing when we visited there. This brought a lot of happiness to those in need, and it felt good to help. One night, I went to enter the house we were staying at while visiting Manila. A line had formed outside and many people had cups and spoons, and they all seemed excited. When I got inside, the ice cream I bought was being served up to the people outside. Initially, I was upset, but when an elderly woman dressed in shower shoes and a tattered old nightgown thanked me profusely and said her prayers had been answered and she now had ice cream, my anger quickly vanished. I became very close, especially to the kids that were around. I was the funny uncle and always spent time with them, as they had lost parents growing up, and I took a mentoring role as they progressed in life. You find out it is not all about you and people rely on you, and you have to respond with heart and involvement. That is your responsibility, and it needs to be fully understood. The impact you have is far greater than you can anticipate. Yes, I know a few of the stories about family life include greedy and calculating people, and that does happen. Knowing the role you are assuming carries great responsibility, and you will be tested often. It is not about you and her first and then last. It is about her and her family. You have just joined, for better or worse. Luckily, a site like Thailand Bound is available, and that is helping many navigate Thai culture and its potential outcomes. Not just on the bar girl level, this creates help, insight is appreciated, no doubt. Okay, quite a short story there. So something guys don't realize a lot of the time when they have relationships, long-term relationships with Asian women, especially from Southeast Asia, there is an emphasis to help out with the family, because a lot of these girls come from poor communities, as this girl did in the Philippines. Lucky she wasn't a rip-off merchant. Sometimes it happens where girls want help with the families. Here, especially bar girls and stuff, the money gets sent off and it just gets spent. There's nothing to show for it. It's up to you to calculate whether you want to do something like that or not. Okay, let's jump into story number 2 of 4 this morning. This story is from a viewer named Leon and is about a teenage girl from Southeast Asia who moved to the United States for the first time and the experiences she went through in a short time. She came from a country neighbouring Thailand, and her cultural background was quite similar. People familiar with the region might recognise many workers in Thailand from her country working in restaurants, food stores and construction. Her name has been changed for privacy, so we will call her Na. Her home life had its struggles. Her father had left when she was young, so she was raised without a strong male role model. Na had a pleasant appearance, a slim build and a longer than average height for a girl from her country. Her straight black hair reached down to her knees, which made her stand out when she arrived in the United States, where that kind of hair is not common. Na moved to the US in early 2024 and initially stayed with a family friend in Nevada. This family ran a sushi restaurant and had Na working there daily in exchange for room and board. She had little personal time and no money of her own, which made her feel restricted. Wanting more independence and freedom, Na relocated after a few weeks to live with distant relatives on the East Coast. This new family was less strict. They paid her to babysit their children and allowed her more free time. With her own income and a lot of time to herself, Na started buying fashionable clothes and began exploring life in America. Like many teenagers, she got active on social media and dating apps, curious about the kind of people she might meet. Back home, dating apps were much more conservative and girls were often judged harshly for having multiple relationships. But in America, things felt different and Na was eager to explore. She began dating a young man, we'll call him Mike, who was in his early 20s. He had a car and took her out to malls, parks and local places to hang out. In a country where cars are essential to get around, Mike gave her access to a level of mobility she could not have on her own. While Na liked Mike, she also had long-term goals. She was hoping to eventually become a permanent resident in the United States and was open to the idea of marrying someone if it meant having a stable life. She was cautious though and listened to her mother's advice, avoiding offers from men who seemed untrustworthy. After a while, Mike began to lose interest. Between the cost of motels, meals and regular outings, the relationship was becoming expensive for him. Na, meanwhile, continued to get a lot of attention online, especially from men with more financial stability. She was no longer satisfied with just physical attraction. She wanted a secure future, and it was clear that Mike was not the one who would offer her that. Their relationship ended and Na moved on. She began seeing a man named Yang, a 28-year-old Asian American whose family owned a business in New York City. Yang was not as athletic as Mike, but he was financially stable and made an effort to visit Na every weekend, driving several hours to take her out for shopping and meals. Over time, Na grew comfortable with Yang and saw an opportunity to build something more secure. She was still dealing with tensions in her living situation and liked the idea of moving to a big city like New York where life was more exciting. However, Yang eventually discovered that Na was still in regular contact with Mike, the former boyfriend. This led to serious issues in their relationship. Rather than walk away, Yang tried harder to make things work. He invited Na to move into an apartment owned by his parents in New York City. Even though his family, especially his mother, did not get along with Na, he still pushed forward. Around the same time, Na received official papers allowing her to remain in the country longer without needing a sponsor. She also started learning new skills and found more opportunities in the city. Unlike in most parts of the US, New York has extensive public transport, so she no longer needed rides from anyone. She had her freedom and was becoming more independent. Yang, meanwhile, continued working at a job 11 hours away from the city, which left Na living alone in the apartment. With no one else around and full control over her life, Na drifted away from Yang emotionally. After a few months, the relationship ended. Na began dating a younger man, a 17-year-old man named Luigi, who was charming and well liked among his peers. While he did not have the financial stability Yang he had the kind of personality and energy that appealed to Na at that stage in her young life. This was a heavy blow for Yang. It is no secret that some men from Asian backgrounds face extra challenges when it comes to dating in certain parts of the world. Yang had struggled with confidence before meeting Na and had shared some of his past difficulties with her. When she left him, especially after he had made so many sacrifices, it affected him deeply. What happened next was tragic. Yang confronted Na and Luigi one day and a violent incident occurred. As a result, both Yang and Luigi lost their lives. This left Na traumatized and isolated, far from home, and without the support she once had. This story is difficult, but in hindsight, important lessons. It is not about blaming anyone, but about understanding the realities of relationships, cultural clashes and emotional maturity. Young people seeking freedom and opportunity can easily find themselves overwhelmed by choices and attention. At the same time, men must learn not to base their self-worth on romantic success alone or feel entitled to someone's loyalty based on what they can provide. Respect, mutual care and realistic expectations are key in any relationship. The story reminds us all to take care of our mental health, avoid getting too emotionally dependent on others, and build our own lives first before trying to bring someone else into it. Very, very difficult when you're young, especially for a young girl like Na. She has a certain lifestyle where she comes from. I'm guessing it's somewhere like Laos, the way he described similar food, and they come to Thailand to work. There's a lot of people come from Myanmar, Laos, and I'm guessing when she was in the States, obviously it was a completely different story. She found herself surrounded by all these guys who find her totally sexy, attractive. You know, in her own country, she probably looked like a lot of other girls. She didn't stand out. But of course, you take that girl, like a Thai girl, or any other Asian for that matter, you take that girl out of her own environment and put her in a Western environment, suddenly there's a lot of guys going to be interested. And it turns the tables a little bit, because then she has the choice. She can pick any guy she wants, and those guys are going to fight to keep that girl. And tragically in this story, two lost out on this. And, hopefully her life will improve in the States. And she was young, as he said. Hopefully she'll mature as the years go by. Okay, let's jump into our third story of the day. And this is a fairly long story. My name is Charles, but my friends call me Chuck. Kind of like the way Peppermint Patty calls Charlie Brown. I have always been a little bit podgy with thinning hair, so it fits in a way. I have been listening to your stories for a few years now, and I find them entertaining and useful. There is nothing better than a community sharing their experiences and wisdom. Hope that is okay. Like so many of us, I am a divorced middle-aged man. We got married young, both only 22, and immediately had twin boys. We got married young, both aged 22, and immediately had children, twin boys. We did our best to make it work in New York City. It is expensive to live there, especially since we sent our sons to private primary school. We both worked demanding jobs with long hours. I was in banking and she was a paralegal for a large firm. Luckily, both our boys made it into one of those specialised public high schools, so expenses finally went down. We thought now that we had extra money, we would finally have time to work on our marriage and actually spend time with each other without the kids. But as I am sure many men have discovered, it was too late. Old habits do not magically fix themselves. We both kept working, coming home late, basically living for our sons. Our boys turned out to be very adventurous. They wanted to get away from New York and attended college far from home. One in Hawaii and the other in Washington State. Both my wife and I are intelligent people who avoid drama. We recognized we needed help. After a few expensive marriage counseling sessions, we just looked at each other and said, why? We agreed to an amicable divorce. There was plenty of money and property to divide evenly, so everyone was happy. Our sons basically said, what took you so long? They are doing great and everyone remains friends. Then COVID hit. I was let go from the bank after 20 years, but with a very generous separation package. By then, I had become familiar with Thailand, though only through YouTubers like yourself and so many others everyone knows. Most of our family vacations were focused on skiing around the northeast and sometimes Europe. I had only been to Japan and Singapore for business, so I never really experienced Asia. It was time to do something radical. I sold most of my stuff and put the rest in storage in New Jersey. I contacted a YouTuber who is also a real estate agent and told him what I was looking for. I figured I would stay at least 6 months in Bangkok to get a feel for the place and take trips around to see if other areas suited me. I got set up in an older condo in the Phrom Phong area and found a great visa agent. I do not really need the co-working spaces, fancy gyms or infinity pools, just a good internet connection so I can trade stocks now and then. I found myself about 3/4 of a kilometre from the Bangkok BTS station. Not so bad unless it's raining like hell or hotter than the surface of the sun. So I moved. My son, who was going to school in Hawaii, came with me to help me get settled. He and I had a great couple of weeks seeing the sights, sampling the bars on Soi 11 and yes, experiencing the infamous joys of Soi Cowboy and Nana Plaza. I am glad he was around to help me get my bearings. By the time he left, I was feeling okay about my choices. Now, this is where the story really begins. Every YouTuber warns you about the bargirls. It is a game. It is business. It is raw capitalization. No quarter giving, none asked. But I found one. I knew she was different. To hell with all the warnings. I found my diamond in the rough. Now, I'm not old, but I am not young. Years of stressful NYC living have taken a toll, and I have still got my podge and lack of hair. I joined a local gym thinking I would try Muay Thai, but never found the motivation. I do the standard evening walks around the lake, but never seem to create a calorie deficit. Whoever thinks Thai food is healthy food is surely mistaken, though I love it. Her name was Law. Her Thai name has about 50 letters and is unpronounceable. She was a server at a club on Soi Cowboy, one I had become a semi-regular at. She was in her late 30s but looked 10 years younger. She had a daughter back in Isan and explained that her husband got involved with substances. She divorced him when he was arrested and sent to prison. Law always seemed to enjoy sitting with me and even offered to join me for food after closing a couple of times. I was impressed with her English. She explained that she took classes because she wanted to work with tourists and make better tips. At this point, I told myself I was just looking to make friends. I had not made any real Western friends yet, and she was a good substitute. We started hanging out more after her shifts. Late night noodles, grabbing beers on Sukhumvit, her introducing me to Thai dishes I could actually eat without burning my face off. She introduced me to more Thais, her friends, people from my generation. I told myself I was in control. She had a daughter to support. I had time and some money to spare, and frankly, it felt nice to have someone interested in me again, even if I knew the game. Funny thing, we hadn't got very personal yet. I was happy getting it elsewhere where there were no expectations or connections. About 2 months in, she invited me to visit her family in Isan. Well, I kind of suggested I wanted to see the area. Big red flag number one, right? Even the YouTubers warn you. You meet the family, the poor village backdrop, the subtle suggestion of becoming her sponsor. I saw it coming from a mile away, but I went because I thought I was in control. I booked flights, rented a car, and off we went. The thing is, Isan, the area around Udon Thani, was beautiful. Humble, yes, but genuine and hot. Her parents were kind. Her daughter was adorable and shy. It felt normal. After years in New York high-rises and banking offices, sitting on a plastic chair outside a wooden house, eating grilled chicken and drinking Thai whiskey with her family, shook something loose in me. I stayed in a nearby hotel, and after the first day, Law insisted on coming back with me. She said she would sleep better with air conditioning, and honestly, her parents were annoying her. Now, I did not speak a bit of Thai. I wish I did. Only later did I find out what they were annoyed about. So, we went back to the hotel. I do not know if it was the whiskey, the location, or whatever, but we connected that night. I know it sounds cliche, but it was the best experience I've ever had. I was hooked. We got back to Bangkok after 3 days. She had to return to work, but she started spending more and more time at my place. She would show up in the early hours after work, especially before her days off. I loved having her around. She would straighten up my apartment, cook meals fit for an army, and even help me buy some basic art to make the place prettier. Now, was I still in control? I knew where she lived. One of these apartment blocks built for working Thais. No air conditioning, cramped space, a long walk to the BTS for her. Of course, I asked her to move in with me. It was great. We enjoyed shopping together, seeing the sights, arts, museums, temples, a few sky bars, a few short trips to Hua Hin, Ayutthaya, and the Sanctuary of Truth in Pattaya. She never asked for money. That is what set her apart, or so I believed. But little things came up. Her daughter needed new school clothes. Just a few thousand baht. I offered without hesitation. Then her sister down in Phuket fell behind on her rent. It was a tough season for tourism, and she did not want her niece and nephew out on the street. Again, I offered. It felt good to help. I told myself I was doing what any decent man would do. It was not like I was some fool being used. I had met the family. Her daughter was sweet. Her sister sent me polite texts of gratitude. It all felt above board. But then came the bigger ask. Her father needed cataract surgery. This was not bar gossip or some sob story made up at 2 a.m. I met the man, sat on his porch, drank his whiskey. He was a weathered, hard-working man with hands like clubs and tired eyes. The surgery was not cheap, real money, not the casual generosity I had shown before. That is when I hesitated. Instead of reaching for my wallet, I tried to be practical. Maybe we can set up a fundraiser, sell food, crafts, I suggested. I have seen some online campaigns work well for stuff like this. I bet your friends would chip in. I can help write it up. That was the first time I saw a flicker of something in her face. Was it disappointment? Maybe. Maybe frustration. It was not over her. No yelling, no guilt trip, just a change in the air between us. She smiled politely but turned away, busying herself with cleaning up the kitchen. Her voice was light when she answered, but her eyes were somewhere else. I thought you cared about my family, she said plainly, not accusing, just there. And I did care. But suddenly I was not so sure what lines I was crossing or how deep I had wandered in. Oh boy, in the words of Oliver Hardy, well, this is a fine mess you've gotten us into. Still, I told myself I was not being taken. I had met her family. I saw where she came from. Her father was a good man, proud and quiet. I told myself I understood. It was her father after all. But the seed of doubt was planted, likely in both of us. Okay, 50,000 baht. Was it worth it? I thought about asking for a doctor's note, but I talked myself out of it. That would probably be insulting. I did the maths in my head, just over $1,500. I spent more than that on a vet bill back home. In that context, I gave her the money and some extra so she could go home and help her dad recover for a week. The next 2 weeks we did not speak of it. Life carried on. I went to the gym, she went to work, we shopped, but the closeness started losing something. Then she left for home, and I was by myself. That is when things took a strange turn. One night I was out at the old German beer house on Soy 11 with a couple of acquaintances. They kind of knew the general situation. Both had their own partners and stories. Midway through my second beer I got a text from a number I did not recognise. You nice man, Law, you should not trust her. Holy cow, I felt sick. My friends noticed me turn pale. I kept the message to myself and made an excuse about the intentional difficulties to get out of there. I knew it. Back at my condo I replied, who is this? No answer. Not until the middle of the next day. The next message came. It was from her sister in Phuket. She apologised for using a different number but said she wanted to stay secret and she did not know much English. I told her it was okay to use Google Translate, just keep the sentences short. The story came out. She knew I had visited Law's hometown. She knew I had met the family. But what I did not know, what her mother had been yelling about, was that Law was still married and it was wrong to bring foreign men to visit. Married, not divorced. I told her I thought Law divorced him. She said he was in prison for substance abuse. Yes, half true, her sister admitted. They were still legally married, but the real story was Law was the one involved and her husband took the blame. He was due to be released soon and they needed money. My head spun. I asked, was your rent problem real? Yes, she replied. That is why I know you're a good man. And the school closed for Law's daughter. That was true too. She is a good girl, she confirmed. I thanked her and told her not to worry. But the ground under my feet did not feel solid anymore. I felt stupid. Could I even think straight about this anymore? I called my sons and told them the story. They laughed and called me an idiot. I totally deserved that. But they understood and helped me keep my cool. They reminded me my divorce had been straightforward and without drama. They trusted I could get out of this the same way with open, honest communication. They are really turning into fine young men. Next, I called my beer drinking friends and asked them to meet me and bring their Thai partners. We met up and I got an earful. Their partners did not sugarcoat it. They both made it clear this would not end well, especially if Law knew she was caught. They told me to protect myself and end it quickly. Law and I exchanged a few texts over the next 2 weeks. Nothing deep, just updates about her dad, her daughter and the weather. 2 weeks later, Law returned. I had changed the key code on the door. Only I could get in now. I had her things packed and ready to go. I met her at Makasan station and brought her back. I think she sensed something was up. She was quiet, did not hold my hand like she used to. When we got to the lobby of my building, I sat her down in one of the chairs. We need to talk, I said. She cut me off right away. You break up with me. You kick me out. I know it. Wow. I was flattened. Part of me expected a knife to fly out of her sleeve, but that did not happen. I simply said yes. Her bags were already downstairs. I asked the man at the front door to bring them out. Law looked mad, maybe on the edge of tears, but she kept her composure. I did not demand the money back. I did not make accusations. I figured the least I could do was let her save as much face as possible. I knew she still had her apartment with most of her stuff, so she wouldn't be homeless. She took her bags, I called her a grab taxi, and she was gone. Looking back, would I do it again? Was it worth it? I don't know. Needless to say, I do not go to her bar on soy cowboy anymore. Okay, so something that tricks guys quite often. So you've got the girls who work in the go-go bars and the regular bars and everything, and then you have the waitresses. And the Western mentality is like, okay, these girls are working, they're up on stage, they're dancing, but the waitresses could do that, but they don't. They're obviously earning less money because they've decided to be waitresses rather than dance on stage. And that gives a false sense of they look at the girl and think, well, she's a decent girl because she doesn't do that. And when I say a decent girl, not being derogatory, saying, they're all bad girls. What I'm trying to say to you is that they do go off with guys. So if you're in a go-go bar and you're getting served by your waitress or a waitress you see, most of the time you can buy her a drink and she will go out of the bar with you, if you know what I mean. Trying to keep it clean for YouTube here, working around it. So those waitresses will go out with you. And a lot of guys get caught out because what happens, they're sitting there, they're looking at the girls in the environment. The waitress comes across, she gives this story about, she hasn't got a lot of money, she's taking care of her daughter, she has to work 12-hour shifts or 10-hour shifts, she's a waitress and she works hard. And guys genuinely think, well, this girl is a nice, honest, hard-working girl. She doesn't go with guys. And a lot of guys fall into that trap because they think because she's a waitress, she can't possibly be a working girl. And most of the time she is, or she'd be a waitress in a regular bar, right? Or a restaurant, something like that. Right, okay. I'm going to jump into our fourth and final story today. This is a little bit of a warning to you guys if you come to Bangkok, or Thailand rather, and I've had to clean it up a little bit so it's fit for YouTube, but I think you'll get the general idea. I wanted to share a story I have carried for 8 years, a story I kept hidden in shame, but now finally I am owning it. It is raw and real, and I think your audience will get a kick out of it, or at least learn something from it. The first time I visited Thailand was about 8 years ago. I started in Bangkok, and to be honest, it was not the dream. Just endless drinking, heavy hangovers, and not too much soul in it. After that, I headed up to Chiang Mai. It was a breath of fresh air. I loved the zip lining and felt more alive again. At that point, I was travelling with a female friend who had come with me all the way from England. She is a bit irrelevant to this story, but worth mentioning for context. Then we headed south to the islands. Koh Phangan was wild. The full moon party was unreal. Exactly the kind of chaos I was hoping for. But it was Koh Tao that gave me a night I will never forget, and not for the reasons I expected. We joined the famous Koh Tao pub crawl. There were ladyboy shows, weird, wacky, wonderful and absolutely brilliant entertainment. Later that night, completely smashed after God knows how many drinks, I noticed this stunning Thai girl dancing. We locked eyes. There was this instant spark. She was even there with her grandma, which made the whole thing even more surreal and kind of enduring. We danced, laughed, vibed. I felt like I had finally hit the jackpot. Up until that point on the trip, I had not been having much luck. Surprisingly, since I have always considered myself a fit, decent-looking guy without blowing my own trumpet too much. But in Thailand, it felt like most girls just expected you to pay, and that was not something I was interested in. I went in for a kiss, but as you know, public affection is frowned upon in Thailand. She leaned in and whispered, "Let's go for a walk. Let's go to the beach," music to my ears. As we walk, I cheekily told her, "You are not leaving me until Tuesday." It was only Saturday night. In my mind, I had absolutely scored. We found a quiet private spot on the beach. That is when she bent over and kissed me like I'd never been kissed before, and I don't mean on the lips. In that moment, I was buzzing. Everything felt perfect. Then after a couple of minutes, I went for the classic reach around. That is when I felt it, something that a woman should not possess on her body. In that split second, my mind exploded. I realised I was inside a man. But here is the insane part. I did not stop. I was too deep in the flow and too drunk. I just carried on and finished the job. Afterwards, I was completely mortified. My mind spiraled. Oh my God, what have I done? Am I gay now? What will my friends think? On top of all that, I lost my phone that night like the universe was having the last laugh at me. I stumbled back to my friend's apartment around the same time he got back. I told him everything, expecting shock and horror. Instead, he just laughed and said, "Really, Gaz? That's happening to me. That's happened to me a few times. Somehow that helped me to process it a bit and made me feel slightly less alone in my debauchery. Still, I carried the shame for years. I was disgusted with myself and kept it a secret. Eventually, I shared it with an on-off girlfriend. She was pretty disgusted too, but she did not leave me. Over time, I started telling it as a drunken party story to entertain people, but deep down, it still haunted me. Finally, just this week, I shared it openly on my podcast, The Next Level, podcast with Gaz Collins. From hiding it for years to telling the entire world, it felt like I finally ripped off that final layer of shame and showed me my true, authentic self, whether people like it or not. If you want to hear every raw detail, every emotion, and the full breakdown, go check it out on the podcast. You can watch the full episode or just the clip. It is all there. Massive shout out to Peter from Thailand Bound for recently coming on the show. That episode is shaping up to be our best yet. Thanks for giving me a space to finally share this story without filters. Looking forward to sharing even more wild truths in the future. So I've put a link to Gareth's podcast in the description below. He's a good guy. He's basically not been doing it too long, but he's getting the numbers up there. And he asked me if I would come to a studio in Pattaya and could he interview me, and I did. And he managed to draw out certain things for me that I wouldn't normally talk about, even on a live stream. So if you're interested in seeing the interview with me on Gareth's live pod, The Next Level, or if you'd like to see the interview he did with the Ladyboy regarding this story, as I say, there's a link in the description. You can go off and watch that. Maybe give him a little bit of support as well. Okay, as always, guys, thanks for listening. If you're sitting on a story, if you've been to Thailand recently or anywhere else in the world and something weird has happened to you, relationship wise or non-relationship wise, send it in. I'll change names. I'll make it anonymous, and you too can hear your story read out right here on Thailand Bound. Thanks for listening again, guys.